This video deals with percents, and I'm going to work through 5 questions that deal with percents in some fashion. So for question number 1, it says, what is 25% of 96? And the way I like to solve these is I create an equation based on this question. So whenever I see the word what, I'm going to use the variable n. Whenever I see the equal or is, I add in an equal sign. Anytime I see a percentage, I write that as a decimal. And the decimal is going to be 0.25. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, you could just take the decimal from the original percent and move it over to the left twice, and that'll be 0.25. Or you could divide 25% by 100. After that, I see the word of, and I replace of with multiplication, and then I bring down my 96. My next step would just be to put this into a calculator, calculate a final answer, which would be 24. So n will be 24. That is 25% of 96. Question 2, 8% of 79 is what number? So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to create an equation. I start off with 8%, so I'm going to write that as a decimal form. I always turn percentages into decimals. If you're not sure or you don't feel comfortable moving a decimal over to the left twice, you could always divide it by 100. After that, I have of, so I put multiplication. I bring down my 79. I see the word is, which will be an equal sign, and then what number. We always use a variable when I see the word what. And then I can put that into a calculator, get my final answer, which is 6.32. That's going to be the value of n. On to question 3. 32 is what percent of 68? So we write 32. I see is, which is an equal sign. I see what percent, which is going to be a variable. Of will always be multiplication, and I bring down 68. Now with this equation, I can't just put it into the calculator. I have to actually do some math. So I go ahead and rewrite my equation, and I see that my variable has multiplication next to it. So I have to undo multiplication. The opposite will be division. So I have to divide out that 68, and I have to do it to both sides. By dividing both sides by 68, this goes away, and I'm left with roughly 0.470. I'm going to do my squiggly equal sign and then set that equal to n. The squiggly equal sign just means an approximation. So there's my answer. However, we want to round to the nearest percent, the whole percent actually. So first we need to convert this to a percentage. Now you got 2 options. You can move the decimal over twice. So the backwards way, like we used to convert a percentage to a decimal by moving to the left twice. However, this way we move the decimal to the right and we go back into a percentage form. Or you could always just take the 0.470 and multiply it by 100. Either way, it's going to give you 47.0%. And then we want to round to the nearest whole percent. So I take my, let's say if I have 47.0%, this is my ones for my percent. I look to my right. Since it's 4 or less, then I'm going to keep it at 47%. That's my percentage, and it's rounded to the nearest whole percent. On to question 4. 48.2% of what number is 175? And we want to round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to write my 48.2% as a decimal. And again, if you're not sure how to do this, just divide it by 100 and you'll get your answer. Of is multiplication. What number? We use n. When we see is, that's going to be the equal sign, and then I bring down 175. And again, just like the previous problem, we have a number being multiplied by the n, so we have to undo the multiplication by dividing. So divide both sides by the 0.482. These will go away. They reduce to 1. When we divide 175 by 0.482, that's going to be approximately 363.070 and so on, but we want to round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to show you how to do that. The 0 is the 10th spot, so I underline that. I look to my right. Since this number is 5 or more, that means I have to bump up that 0. So then my actual answer is going to be n is roughly 363.1. That's going to be my final answer rounded to the nearest 10th spot. Okay, question 5. What percent of 54 is 14? So I see what percent. I'm going to write down n. Of is multiplication. I bring down 54. Is, I put an equal sign, and then 14. So once again, I see I have multiplication here, so I have to undo it by dividing both sides by 54. There we go. 54 over 54 reduces to be 1. That leaves us with n being approximately 0.25925. Now we want to round to the nearest hundredth, which is this 5 spot. So I look to the right of the 5, which is a 9. Since it's 5 or greater, that 5 gets kicked up to a 6. Now we're looking for a percentage, so we got to take that 0.25925 and multiply it by 100 to turn it into a percent, or we could just kick that decimal over to the right 2 times. Either way, I'm going to be left with 25.925%. And we want to round to the nearest hundredth, so I underline the 2, that's the hundredth spot. I look to my right, which is a 5. Anytime we have 5 or more, we want to round up, so I'm left with 25.93. The 2 gets kicked up to a 3, and that's going to be my final percentage.